Hello everyone. So today I'm going to be talking about journal entries and modes of payments. So let's get to it. So to find the journal entry on the ERP, you go to the accounting module, and from the accounting module you can see journal entry right here. So you click on that, and it brings you to the journal entry list. Alright, so this is a list where you see all journal entries that has been made on the system so far. So to create a new journal entry, you click on the Add Journal Entry on the top right. Alright, so journal entry, there are different types of journal entries, and I'm just going to be going through different types. But before then, let me show you the interface of journal entries. So here is the entry type, which lets you select what type of journal entry it is you want to make. Then this is the series, you don't have to change anything here. Finance book, you set up a particular finance book beforehand, you can always select that, but again, it is not necessary. Company, this is the company that the journal entry is for. From templates, if you have a template for your journal entries, if you've previously created templates for your journal entries, you can select them here. Then the posting date is the date you want this transaction to hit the ledgers. Alright, so these are the accounting entries. So where you find account, party type, party, debit and credit. So typical journal entry fashion. So what account do you want to debit or credit? You put that here. The party type is like if you want the entry to be related to a specific thing. So, for example, if let's say you're making a transaction for sales and you want it linked to a particular sales invoice, you can always select the party type here, sales invoice, and the party you put in the sales invoice number here. Then you debit and credit, typical journal entry fashion, whichever it is you're debiting, you debit here, whichever it is you're crediting, you credit here. Then there's the hard draw to input to put in more rows in the journal entry. Then the reference number is if you have a reference number for your journal entry, to create a reference number for your journal entry so it can be easily tracked. If you have a reference date as well, put in the date. Then the total debit and total credit is just going to sum up the amount here and the amount here. Then if there's a difference, you're going to see a difference here. There's going to be a different box for difference. Then user remarks lets you um, lets you input user remarks. So probably being payment for cash sales made on so and so date. Then multi-currency lets you make journal entry for multiple currencies. All right. And over here we have references. This you did not need to fill this, but if you have a bill number, you can always input it here. If you have a bill date, you can input it here. If you have a due date, you can input it here. Then printing settings is totally not necessary to fill. Then more information. If you have a mode of payments, you can always include it here. If it's an open entry, you can always say yes or no here. Then also one more thing I also like to touch on is the specifics inside the edit button. So here it's typically the same thing outside. So the account, if there's a bank account linked to it, the party type and the party, accounting dimensions. If you have a particular cost center linked to it, then there's a project linked. If this is linked to a project as well, then the currency that this transaction is in. The exchange rate is if you have a journal entry with multiple currencies. That is when this comes into play. Then the debits and credits, like I said, same thing. Then reference type. So if you have a reference type, probably sales in any of these reference types, you can always select them. Any of these, if you want to link journal entry to any of this, you can always select them. So if I link this to a reference, to a sales invoice, for example, I'm going to have to select the sales invoice that this is linked to. Then it's going to also populate the reference due date for me. If this is an advance payment, this is when I change this to yes or no. Then user remarks again lets you just input the remarks whether being sales made on so and so dates, etc. etc. Right, so I'm going to leave this blank and then let's come back outside to the different type of journal entries we have. Alright, so it's different type of journal entries we have. Let's start with journal entry. So this is a general journal entry, like nothing special about this. This is just a basic journal entry. Now, intercompany journal entry is when you are trying to make transactional entries for companies, for sister companies or parents and subsidiaries, and etc. Then the next type of journal entry we have is a bank entry. So this is when you're making a journal entry involving a bank account, using a payment using a bank account. All right. So then the next one is a cash entry when you're making a payment using a cash. All right, then credit card entry. This is really not used in Nigeria, but a type of entry to easily identify all credit card entries. Now, debit note is a type of document sent by a customer to a supplier. So that is like your company to your supplier when returning goods and items. So for a debit note, the typical journal entries are you debit the supplier's account and you credit the purchase return account. That is what a debit note does. Then a credit note is a document sent by a supplier to a customer when returning goods or items. All right. So the typical debit and credit entries for a credit note is to debit the sales return account and to credit the customer's account. All right, then contra entry. Contra entry is used when the transaction is booked within the same company of types, e.g., maybe transaction between a cash account and another cash account, a bank account and another bank account, cash to bank, bank to cash, stuff like that. Then excise entry is used when a company buys goods from a supplier, pays excise duty on these goods to that supplier, and also used when a company sells these goods to customers and receives excise duties. All right, so um, the typical debit and credit entries for excise duties. Okay, so when a company buys goods with excise duties, it debits the purchase account and excise duties account and credits the supplier's account. When a company sells goods with excise duties, it debits the customer account and it credits sales and excise duties account. So write-off entry lets you write off debts. So whether to suppliers or customers, debt to suppliers, yes, or debt from customers. So if you select the write-off entry, it's going to populate um, all your unpaid invoices. It's going to populate them here, and it's going to give you a place to write them off. Right. So the typical the entries for a write-off is going to be you are going to be debiting the bad debts. You are going to be debiting the debts account and you're going to be crediting the customer's account. So you're going to be debiting bad debts written off accounts and you're going to be crediting the customer's account like that. All right, so the next entry type is the opening entry. So opening entry is useful when moving from other softwares to OyaSync. So it lets you input the opening invoice balance of all your accounts. So like when you get a trial balance from your previous company and you just select all the invoices, all the accounting heads from that trial balance, and you debit and credit them where due. All right. So depreciation entry is when you write off certain value of assets. So when you write off the value of assets due to depreciation. So the typical accounting entries for depreciation is to debit the depreciation account and to credit the asset account. All right, the next one is exchange rate revaluation. Now, this is only useful if your chart of accounts has accounts with multiple currencies. This that is when this is going to be useful. The entry is intended to be created from an exchange rate revaluation form. All right, so this can only be used when your chart of accounts has accounts with multiple currencies. Okay. Then deferred revenue and deferred expense, I don't think these are really necessary since OyaSync typically takes care of this for you. So these are not really necessary type of journal entries. But every other journal entry type is necessary. Alright, so let's create a test journal entry. So to do that, let's select the account. So let's say um I'm making a payment from my bank and I'm making it to uh, 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 you know what? And possibly I'm taking it to cash. I'm withdrawing money from my bank to cash FAOT. Oh, I'm sorry. This is not an intercompany journal entry. This is a regular journal entry, or you can even say this is a contra entry since it's from bank to cash. You know. Then the party type, I'm not selecting any party type or party, so I'm going to say I'm debiting 30,000 from my bank and 30,000 from here. That's 300,000, sorry. So with this entry, this means that I'm depositing 30,000 naira cash into my bank account. So 30,000 is taken from cash and is being debited into the bank account. All right. So here you can see total debit and total credit. So if I want to put in a remark, I can just say being money deposited into bank account. Then once I'm done with all of this, I click on save and I submit this. It's asking me if I want to permanently submit and I click on yes. So now this has been submitted to bank and cash. So I'm going to see if I check my book, my ledgers now, I'll see that I have 30,000 naira in my bank account. And since I've not made any transactions in this on this instance, I'm going to have a minus 30,000 naira balance in my cash account. So let's quickly look at that. So to do that, we click on view and we click on ledger. So if we look at our ledger from the 18th of January 2023 to the 18th of January 2023, we're just seeing, okay, so we have bank account 30,000, cash account. Let's look at the individual accounts, individual ledger. So delete this filter. All right, so we are going to be looking at the bank account first. So let's go to bank. FAOT. So here we can see that the balance in our bank is 30,000 naira. So the balance here is 30,800 naira, which means that we must have made a transaction previously for 800 naira. Right, so if we check our cash account, our balance should be minus 30,000, unless if we've made transactions previously there as well. So let's check our cash and refresh this. So if you see our cash now, we have 30,000 naira credit, but because we already have 200 naira in our cash account previously, and we took out 30,000 naira, you can see now that we have minus 29,800. So this is the money we have, minus 29,800 naira in our cash accounts, minus 29,800 is the closing value of our cash account. All right, so let's go back to the journal entry. So this is journal entry we just created for 30,000 naira in between the cash and bank account. Alright, so 30,000, 30,000. Now again, there are more things we can create after creating the journal entries. So here you see the make and reverse journal entries. So if you want to do this, this just means we want to instead of cancelling and making our journal entry list look many reds, many cancelled in our journal, seeing many cancelled in our journal entries, we can just create a reverse journal entry, and this is going to reverse this particular journal entry. All right, so basically it's just going to now here this bank account is debited and the cash account is credited. If you create a reverse journal entry, it's going to credit the bank account and it's going to debit the cash account. All right, so let's just reverse the journal entry and we see how that affects our books of accounts. So we click on reverse journal entry, and now you see that the transactions have been reversed. So now bank is being credited and cash is being debited. All right. So check the date, check the company, being journal entry reversal of journal entry made on the 18th. So here we click on save. So clicking on save, we've saved this, then we click on submit as well, and this has been submitted. So if you go back to the journal entries, we can see that this has been reversed, so 30,000, 30,000. Now if we go to our books of accounts, go to our ledgers. So let's first start with our bank accounts. Let's delete this. So now we see that we have 800 naira in our bank accounts. Now this has been reversed. So you see that now, because of that reverse journal entry, you can see that this particular transaction at first has been reversed. Right? If you check the cash account as well, we see that it's the same thing on all fronts. All right, so the next thing I'm going to be talking about now is mode of payments. Mode of payment. So to get to the mode of payment, the easiest way is to use your search bar. So type in mode of payment list, and this shows you all the mode of payments you currently have on OyaSync. All right, so here we have cash transfer, POS, bank transfer, TG, POS, TG, etc. Right, so we can always create a new mode of payment and link it to a particular account. So let's say we want to create a new mode of payment called let me see P no, I'm going to say transfer for GT Bank. Transfer for GT Bank. So I'm going, once I do that, I click on save, and then if I open this, I can select what account exactly, or what type of account this is. So if this is a cash or bank account, so since the mode of payment should be a cash or a bank account. So let's say it's a bank account, then I can select exactly where these transactions are going to be debited or credited to, where the transactions that are made, payments made to this mode of payment are going to be debited to. So if I say that these transactions are going to be paid to, let's say, okay, so I have a GTB bank here, so I can say I want to go to a GTB bank. All right, so to specify, to create a new bank account, you use your chart of accounts to do that. There's a separate video talking about the chart of accounts and how to create new accounts or new accounting heads in your chart of accounts. But basically, this is how you create a mode of payment. So once you're done with this, once you've created the mode of payment, you've selected the company that it applies to, and you selected default accounts that payments made to this mode of payment go to, then you click on save. So clicking on save, this has been saved. This is now a mode of payment, and any payment made to this account or made from this account will affect this account 001 GTB FAOT. All right, so yeah, so this brings us to the end of today's lesson. So thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next one.